And welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. All throughout the month of November, we're aiming to bring you a brand new game review each and every day. Might be a written review over at thegaminggang.com, or it could be a video review from yours truly. And obviously enough, that's the case today, as I'm going to share my thoughts about Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland Total Carnage Edition from Super Savage Systems. This is written by Brian Shutter, and this 242-page hardcover is available now. You can order it through Goodman Games. It carries an MSRP of $50, or you can grab just the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for the rocking price of $10. And DriveThru also indicates that the PDF is 300 pages. I don't know if that's the case, because it's not unusual for DriveThruRPG to have the page counts wrong. But I do understand that there have been different editions of this game, which some have included an extra setting for the game, some have included adventures for the game. Those aren't present in this hardcover. So it is possible for $10, which once again, that's a smoking deal, you could be getting a 300-page PDF. Don't know. Regardless, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here's something I do know, and that is Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland Total Carnage Edition. And I'm just going to call this Neon Lords from here on out. A couple of things that I do want to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, Brian Shutter was kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside Neon Lords. All right, let's jump on in. First thing we're going to do is actually take a peek at the credits page, because there are a lot of folks who worked very hard to bring this to life. Got quite a few artists here. First thing I'm going to mention, if you're not familiar with this game, it is a super Gonzo, super in your face, high octane, post-apocalyptic role-playing game. And when I say Gonzo, I mean ultra Gonzo. And just as we flip through some of the book, you're going to see that on display. I will say it's kind of unusual that it's available through Goodman Games, who publishes Mutant Crawl Classics. And this would kind of be in direct competition, because it is also a post-apocalyptic role-playing game. So it's saying something that Goodman Games actually sells what could be considered a direct competitor to their in-house game. So keep that in mind, because this book is just absolutely packed with cool and crazy ideas. Now, this is an old school inspired role-playing game, so it's kind of built on the skeleton of BX. Not quite, but in essence, it is. As far as the mechanics of the game, I'll be very honest, I would absolutely not run this as written. Number one, because there's so many little subsystems that are just completely different than other subsystems. It would be very difficult to remember everything that's supposed to be going on, as far as, oh, okay, so you're doing this. Oh, so you roll this die. Oh, you're doing this. Okay, so you need to roll under your attribute. Oh, it's a save. Okay, so you got to roll higher than this save number. It's kind of crazy. And I will say, this game book is sort of like everything and the kitchen sink all thrown into it. You're going to see as we flip through that it's just packed, absolutely packed. And the thing is, even if I weren't going to use the core mechanics, because this is an old school inspired game, and it does utilize some relatively common mechanics, you could easily port this over to other retro clones, such as, obviously enough, Mutant Crawl Classics, if you wanted to. As far as the setting, it's supposed to be a mashup of the 1980s and 1990s. And that's when the apocalypse hit. And we have got mutants and alien invaders and crazy technology. I mean, it's really wild. So, as far as the player characters, we do have a dozen classes, and each of these classes is effectively an AD&D class, which has been warped to fit into this game world. And every one of these classes has really cool, very unique things that they can do. Everybody in the party will have specialties that everybody's going to rely on them to accomplish. I like that quite a lot. And as you can see, each of these classes will have 3 pages devoted to them. So let's take an example here. Let's get where is our ranger? Did I pass her? I may have passed her. Nah, I think she's the next one. There we go. Heather. So young, so bad, so what? Hellcat Eradication and Termination Heavy Enhanced Ranger, or Heather for short, were small units employed at the end of the Neon Wars for special hit missions of key enemy personnel. So the reality is, this is kind of a tweak of the Ranger class. And as you take a look at some of the various different abilities that the Heather has, you'll sort of see that. I gotta say that this is really, really original. And reading through this book is going to be, for most people, a trip. It was for me. Now, I should also point out, I don't see people taking a peek at Neon Lords and just coming away from this just saying, it's all right. They're either going to absolutely love it or they're going to absolutely despise it. And one of the first things I will point out is the layout of this book is an absolute mess. Look at this. I mean, it's really difficult to find things. It is not laid out intuitively at all. I had to search around to try to find like the detailed combat rules. It was easy to find the quick combat cheat sheet, but the actual combat rules, which there aren't many, this is essentially a fairly rules light game. Like I said, it's built on BX, but just the clutter of this layout too is going to aggravate the hell out of some people. So I want to point that out. Myself personally, I got used to it. I was like, okay, all right, okay, this is a mess, but still, there are just so many cool ideas that are packed into this core rule book that I'm more forgiving of this being as weirdly laid out as it is. Now, because this is built on BX doesn't necessarily mean that this is just a BX clone. It certainly is not. Magic use is different. So we've got magic like regular spells. We have magic from hackers, so they're hacks. And we also have clerical spells. One of the things that's kind of cool is this is not Vancian magic. So, as an example, the War Wizard actually has so many 6-sided dice they're going to roll every day. And a score of 4 or higher gives them the potential for having a spell available to them. So, if they're rolling, say, 7 dice, and 4 of those dice come up 4 or higher, then they have 4 spells available to them that day. Uh, with hacking, a little bit different. There's hacking points, which as you cast hacks, you're going to spend points. So that's a little bit different there. As far as the magic and the spells and the hacks, all pretty cool. A lot of them fairly standard results, kind of taking spells from BX and tweaking them to fit into this setting. But all in all, really nicely done. There are a lot. So we've got a lot of spells, we got a lot of hacks, we got a lot of prayers. So a lot of page space devoted to those. We have riffs. Then we'll actually start moving into a game master facing portion of the book. Okay, so once again, the layout of this is not intuitive to learning how to play the game. It does have kind of a cool look to it. Here's that combat cheat sheet, as I mentioned. But as far as the way this is like presented, it's not exactly jumping out saying, okay, real easy to make out, real easy to read. Something I thought was kind of interesting with the combat is the combat feels more like a miniatures game. The various different steps to combat feels like an old miniatures game. So you've got your initiative, you have a spell casting section of the turn, you've got melee attacks, ranged attacks. So I thought that was kind of cool. I liked it actually. So I thought that was pretty cool. So it's like, okay, so if you're using a one-handed melee weapon, you're going to go before somebody who's got a two-handed melee weapon. In fact, they're going to be the persons who go last in the combat round. We've got various different critical hits for both the character classes as well as the NPCs and monsters that you'll find in the bestiary that's going to wrap up this game. Mechanically, I'm not a huge fan. One of the reasons is saves are done in a different way than attribute checks. So, attribute checks, you're going to have your traditional 3d6 as far as your strength and so on. So, when you're making an attribute check, you're going to be rolling a 20-sided die and you need to roll under. So, it's not equal to or under, it's got to be under. And then for the saves, and there are 4 different save categories, you need to roll higher than the number that's on the save chart. But then, weirdly enough, the critical failure is on a 1 for like if you're making an attribute check. If you roll a 1, it's a failure, and a 20 is a critical, which doesn't really make sense because rolling high is bad, at least when you're trying to make an attribute check, and rolling low is good. So shouldn't it be 1 is the critical, 20 is the bad thing, right? I don't know, kind of weird. Kind of weird. So the reality is if I were going to run something which was kind of built on these mechanics, I would look to go either rolling low is good for everything outside of, like you're the war wizard trying to get spells. That's fine. 4 or higher on a 6-sided die. But as far as some core mechanics that everybody's going to use, like attribute checks, as well as the saves in that, I would look to make that the same. Either low is good or high is good, whatever. We will get a section of the book that's going to be dedicated to what happened. And once again, it's pretty wild. Now, this is Neoterix. So it's kind of Earth. So, Hell World. This is the bestiary section. So one of the cool things I like about the bestiary is the entries pretty short, to the point, but we also get special results for critical hits for each of these, which are all very unique. I thought that was very cool. And as you can see, we have got loads and loads of entries in our bestiary. As I'm just flipping on through. Oh, yeah, that's right. The critical failure is the total bummer. Like I said, some people are not going to deal with the attitude of this game very well. Like I said, it's super over the top. Myself personally, I looked beyond some of it because I was like, wow, there are a lot of really cool ideas packed into this book. If you can find them. Then we get into our appendices. So pretty cool throughout. All right, so that is a peek inside Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland Total Carnage Edition. Let's swing on over to the other camera. I'm going to share some final thoughts and give this a review score. And I think people out there are going to be surprised by my review score, especially since I've already mentioned that the layout of this book, at least in my opinion, is a mess. It is. You know, it's kind of funny because I reviewed Cyberpunk Red, and Cyberpunk Red, which has absolutely nothing thematically to do with this game, but it was another book that the layout is just not well done. But it is so packed with great content that I absolutely had to give it a really good score, regardless of it not being presented intuitively. Didn't matter to me. It's one of those games where it's like, wow, it is so jam-packed with cool stuff, great ideas. I like the mechanics of Cyberpunk Red as well, unlike Neon Lords, which I'm sort of, But like I said, people are going to be surprised at the review score I give Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland Total Carnage Edition. This is fun. It's a hell of a goofy read. I mean, you'll just rock on through reading this book because you'll be sitting there flipping through wondering, all right, what's next? I mean, what are we running across next in this book? And weirdly enough, I spoke with Brian Shutter for a while over at Gamehole Con. Seemed like a pretty normal guy. I don't know anymore after reading this. Just kidding. Anyway, Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland Total Carnage Edition is just packed with fun, cool, in your face, high octane stuff that maybe you might not want to run this per se as the actual game system, but you could easily port a ton of this stuff that you like into your own post-apocalyptic OSR sort of role-playing game. So by all means, like I said before, that $10 PDF over at DriveThruRPG is an absolute steal. This is just an idea cornucopia for those of you out there who enjoy Gonzo off the wall post-apocalyptic adventuring. So on a scale of 0 to 10, even with the layout as crazy as it is, and as the information presentation being everything and the kitchen sink, I give Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland Total Carnage Edition an 8.5 out of 10. I know, like I said, people were going to be surprised by this, but it's just got so much cool stuff that I would absolutely steal in a minute and put into any other post-apocalyptic role-playing game I might be running as a game master. All right, that is it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Now, keep in mind, I'm on a quest, I say, to reach 15,000 subscribers before the end of the year, by the time the calendar turns to 2025. And yes, I know we're a few hundred away. Maybe we can get there. I'm trying. But regardless, when you do subscribe, don't forget to ring that bell because it'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this Gonzo review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.